see when I go to tie that knot. And the hardest part you guys will probably have is learning to catch this knot and learning to tie it in. This tail hair into this knot. Okay? It's going to be, this next step right here is probably going to be the hardest for y'all to learn. One quick twist. Now, if you can learn not to touch that, but to center your finger here and start to pull, you can see where that starts to pull and then snatch. I think you saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That snatching part is one of the places you have to be really, really fast. And really accurate. And at the same time, you don't want to over pull. All you want to do is snug that up and snatch as far as it needs to go. Your braid doesn't need to go shooting across the neck. And if it is, then your ends are way too thick and way too blunt. They'll be, instead of nice feathery ends like this, you're going to have, if you square cut your mane, ooh, bad, 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 bad. It's going to be very hard for you. See that big tail? See how fast I caught that? Let me make sure that stays up there. I'm going to tell you about knot tension. Like I said, you want to pull, you want it to be firm, but after it's done, once you get into the rhythm of tying knots, especially on your underside knots, give them a little second tug. Just a little shock. That little shock will make sure that your knots do not come undone. Just shock that knot just a tiny little bit. And you don't need to do that so much on the top because the shock may change the way the braid lays. I mean the knot lays. You don't want to shock the top. Just put it under, shock it. It's kind of a shock in itself. Okay? Really, really tightens up your knots. Okay, here's my mane. I'm going back and just finishing it off. I'm cutting off the yarn. Now you're probably going to notice a few of these tails. And I'm going to show you there's a very tricky thing that we sort of do to take care of these things. It's not very hard, and I'm sure you'll learn it quickly. You just cut them off. Hi-ya! But they won't miss it. Chop! But there's nothing left. I mean, come on, people. You're not going to miss that off the bottoms of your mane. But if they're this long, you don't chop them. Okay? They're way too long, and you're going to mess your manes up. That's what I'm talking about. You don't ever want to make big cuts to your mane. Okay? Now you can kind of see how this line goes up and down a little bit with this V here being the lowest point of the braids. So this braid itself, and maybe that one could have been a little bit shorter, but all in all, you know, this is a pretty good job with this horse shaking his head. But there's still a nice line. From more than 5 feet away, it's going to be almost impossible to see that that one braid there is a little bit low.